Good evening. First tonight, expendables to be used, abused and discarded. Strong words from a former board member of the troubled Betsi Cadwaladr Health Board. Richard Micklewright is the only former independent board member to speak out after all 11 were asked to stand down in February by the Health Minister Eluned Morgan. Well, speaking exclusively to Wales Live, he also called for a criminal investigation into financial matters at the Health Board, which covers the whole of North Wales. Elliw Gwawr went to meet him.
In February, Audit Wales produced a damning report that was highly critical of Betsi Cadwaladr's executive team, the people that run the organisation day to day. Richard Micklewright, an accountant by trade, was a member of the Independent Board, responsible for overseeing the work of the executive. There was no direct criticism of them, so it came as a complete surprise when Eluned Morgan forced them to resign.
It was an extremely difficult and traumatic experience. We were given a message at 4:30 in the afternoon on Friday that we were summoned to meet the Minister at 8:30 Monday morning in Llandudno. It wasn't a, can we arrange to meet you, it was a summons. We were given no information about what the meeting was about, no agenda. It was just turn up. Went into the meeting and she was sitting there with some of her senior officials. And she had a little piece of paper on the desk in front of her with a script on it, which she effectively read out. And it amounted to, I'm not happy with the progress of Betsi Cadwaladr. So I've decided I'm going to do something about it. And the something I'm going to do is that we're going to change all the independent board members. So I need you to resign. And if you don't resign, I will dismiss you, which I'm entitled to do. And that was that. And it was an extremely difficult, traumatic experience. It's something that I've never experienced before and my colleagues hadn't either.
How did it make you feel at the time?
We were not expecting it at all. There'd been no communication from her or her officials to indicate there was dissatisfaction in what we were doing. We just felt that we'd been completely let down and treated badly. It was tantamount to bullying, really. We were, as said before, summoned to appear at a particular time. We had no options about what we were going to do. We were just dismissed. We were all people who were at the end of careers where we'd all been successful in our respective ways, and we were all of a sudden just thrown out. It was as though we were expendables to be used, abused and discarded at her whim.
Was there any duty of care following that meeting?
None at all. There has been no contact from the Welsh Government at all. And different people would react to those things in different ways. Some of us are quite strong or have internalised it and been very stoic about it. Others are clearly suffering from stress and upset.
Former Vice Chair of Betsi Cadwaladr's Audit Committee, Richard believes there should also be a criminal investigation into financial matters at the Health Board, after a report by accountancy firm Ernst & Young alleged finance officials made deliberately wrong entries in accounts.
We brought in a firm of external accountants, Ernst & Young, to do a review, and they found widespread problems. They found falsification of the accounts, falsification of documents, procurement irregularities. We are quite clear from the report that we got that criminality has occurred. It would seem from the way Betsi and the Welsh Government are now treating the Ernst & Young report and the NHS counter-fraud investigation that will not be taken further.
Should it be taken further?
Absolutely. I mean, in my opinion and in the opinion of my colleagues, there needs to be a police referral for this. There needs to be a criminal investigation.
What do you make of Mark Drakeford's response in the Senedd recently when he was asked about the Ernst & Young reports? He basically said, we don't run Betsi Cadwaladr.
Well, that is complete nonsense, because ordinarily he's right, he doesn't. But his minister put Betsi back into special measures. So at this precise moment in time, he does run Betsi Cadwaladr. Somebody needs to take responsibility, and I can only see two people in the frame potentially, Mark Drakeford and Eluned Morgan. I think probably if you look at Eluned Morgan's handling of our dismissal and handling of the subsequent questions around the Ernst & Young report, it's very difficult to square Eluned Morgan's behaviour with the Nolan principles of public performance.
Should she go?
That's probably not a question that you should ask me. I would not be surprised if she did go, but that's obviously a matter for her and her conscience and Mark Drakeford.
How can the patients of Betsy Cadwaladr have any confidence in their health board going forward?
There are thousands and thousands of interactions going on every year with Betsy Cadwaladr, the overwhelming majority of which go quite satisfactorily. So, let's not lose sight of that. The problem we've got is, if standards slip, there is now not an effective mechanism for alerting the people who need to be alerted that standards are slipping. So I think nothing will change dramatically in the short term, but I would imagine that if you come back and talk to me in a year's time or 2 years' time, we will find that all the key indicators about waiting times, about quality of clinical experiences and such like will have declined, because there is no effective oversight mechanism in place in the absence of a full cadre of independent members. I am absolutely definite in my view that Betsy Cadwaladr can be saved. It's not been made easier by the events of the last few months, but if somebody was in there as chief executive who had a clear plan of action and, most importantly, had the ability to implement it without any brakes being put on them from Cardiff, then it would be possible to turn Betsy Cadwaladr around so that it is a highly effective organisation. In my estimation, that would probably take about 18 months to 2 years.
The Welsh Government haven't responded to the specific allegations in this interview, but Eluned Morgan told the Senedd that people named in the financial report have been suspended. Betsy Cadwaladr Health Board have said that it is inappropriate to comment on the status of any employees at this stage, but say more board members are being appointed and will be announced in due course.
Elliw Gwawr reporting. Well, we did ask the Health Minister, or indeed anybody from Welsh Labour, to join us this evening, but no one was available. I am joined by two Senedd members, Darren Miller from the Conservatives and Plaid Cymru's health spokesperson, Rhun ap Iorwerth. Welcome to you both. Darren Miller, I'll start with you. Quite a wide-ranging condemnation of events there. What's your initial reaction to what he had to say?
I think the independent board members at the Betsy Cadwaladr Health Board have been treated despicably. They've been treated like naughty school children when they were actually the people who were trying to do their job, holding the executive team, a dysfunctional executive team, to account.
But were they doing that, though? Because given what's going on at Betsy, did Eluned Morgan not have a point that it was dysfunctional, the relationship between the executive and the independent members, as pointed out by Audit Wales? And that she only had the power to sack them, not the others.
Well, I think you have to remember that it was the independent members who called in, Ernst & Young to do this forensic piece of work on the finances in the organisation because of the problems which they had identified. And this is a board, these were independent members who were having the wool pulled over their eyes many times with information not being shared with them. So they've been treated appallingly by the Welsh Government and the Health Minister, and I think it calls into question her judgment.
Rhun ap Iorwerth, this is now a fresh start, said Eluned Morgan in the Senedd this afternoon. New board members are coming in.
It's not a fresh start. This is a board that is still in a rotten condition. The board members, the independent board members that were removed, are owed an apology. It pains me to listen to Richard Micklewright speaking about the way they were treated. I explained in the Senedd at the time those exact details of how they had been dismissed, but it's the intensity of what he is saying now about the criminality that he is convinced that has taken place. And yet we have a government that is refusing to do what I asked them to do today in the Senedd, which is to encourage a police investigation.
Yeah, and on that, Rhun ap Iorwerth, Eluned Morgan said it's not up to her to call in the police. If they want to investigate, then they can, and they're looking into that, aren't they?
I would like to hear the Minister say that she would welcome a police investigation. Staff at Betsy, patients in the north of Wales deserve to know that everything is being done to get to the core of the rot that has led us to this point. Okay. And I think a police investigation could be a big part of that.
So Rhun ap Iorwerth wants a police investigation and an apology. What do you want to happen next?
Well, I want a police investigation too. As soon as I became aware of the Ernst & Young report and an anonymous copy was shared with me, I immediately referred that matter to the police because on the face of it, it looks like criminality and corruption to me. And I don't want that in a major public service provider in North Wales because it's distracting them from the day job of doing the patient care that we need them to do. And we know that we've got lots of problems in that health board.
Yeah, whatever happened in terms of allegations of financial mismanagement, the government is making it clear no money was lost to the NHS and money has not been lost to Betsy Cadwaladr. You also want reorganisation, Rhina Piorwerth. Really? Now is the time to go through all that bureaucracy and palaver now when patients want care?
What I said in the Senedd again today is I don't want a reorganisation either, but I have lost trust in the ability of Welsh Government to turn things around for Betsy Cadwaladr. And I've called again on Welsh Government today to at least put a plan B in place, a new structure for health in the north of Wales, and to hold an inquiry too, to find out what on earth has led us to this point, where we have layer and layer of the most serious examples of mismanagement that has completely eroded the trust of people in the north and the service that is meant to serve them.
Is it too big? Does it need to be broken up?
I've always been of the view that it's the quality of the leadership in an organisation like the Betsy Cadwaladr Health Board that's the major problem. And if that can be solved, then it's perfectly salvageable, as the former independent member just shared now in his interview. It is possible to turn the organisation around. However, I want to leave no stone unturned in exploring options for the future of this organisation in order to make sure that patients get the care that they deserve. And they're not at the moment, unfortunately.
Today, you know, morale is getting better on the board level and within the 20,000 staff. You know, give it time to bed in. What's your response to that?
Well, you know, I have to reflect on the attitudes of patients who are my constituents, staff who are my constituents, and I can tell you from my postbag, all is not well in that organisation. I have members of staff contacting me to say that the culture in the organisation is poisonous, that they feel bullied, they don't feel empowered to speak out when things go wrong. And patients, yes, of course, many patients have good interactions with the NHS each and every day. But for those where it goes wrong, it can be a matter of life and death. And people have died as a result of decisions which have been made.
Now, Rhina Piorwerth, if you were in government, you could call an inquiry, you could call the police in, you could do whatever you like. To be in government, maybe you would argue, lead your party. How about it? Are you going to go for the leadership?
I've spoken with constituents and told them last week, of course, I have to think about what to do next. You know how much my constituency means to me. Wales means everything to me. I'll do what I believe is in the best interest of.
When will you decide? Because the closing day's coming quite soon.
But I was going to say what's good here is that the party has put a sensible process in place. We have an acting leader in Llŷr now that is able to take us forward as we take some time over these big decisions, because as we've been discussing this evening, we have so much to deal with in Wales.
But would you agree it needs to be a contest, not a coronation?
We have a process in place, and what is in the interest of Wales is what is going to drive Plaid Cymru and myself over the.
We're not getting anywhere on that one. Thank you very much, Rhina Piorwerth and Darren Millar. Thank you both very much.